Tides of Annihilation is another Final Fantasy clone with King Arthur narration into it. Because of the legendary Excalibur itself being appeared in the cinematic. The real honest question is, why are these games only fixated on its story? This might sound like a trauma for some people. I'm really not sold on the voice acting and the dialogues, really making me rethink this and AI-generated bullshit. But the graphics look good. Art direction feels like it's lacking a little something that could help make it stand out. Or not. I was really struggling to understand the depleting meter bars and how it works in the game. But bear with me and let me explain it. After watching the Gwendolyn fight, I'm under the impression there's a Sekiro-like stagger for an final blow mechanic. I might be calling wrong judgments on that for now, but I'm not inherently against it. And here's what I've gathered so far. Skill attacks that rely on summons for major, high-impact abilities appear to consume the bar. However, when summons are incorporated into standard combos, such as during juggles, launchers, slams, or other chained attacks, they don't seem to use any energy. In other words, it looks like summons can be naturally integrated into your regular combo flow without costing resources, while their more powerful, ultimate-style abilities do require energy from the blue bar. It seems like an interesting system that prevents players from spamming high-powered skills, yet still allows summons and combos to blend smoothly into normal hack-and-slash gameplay. Most of the problems with the general game releases are basically come down to the gameplay mechanics, with huge issue. We still don't really understand how the human brain works. Because of that, a lot of mental health of a person conditions can't be tied to a clear goal or specific cause. I know that this is a broad topic. Since we don't fully knowledge of what's happening inside the gaming companies, mental health labels are based on how people act and feel, not on what's physically going on in the brain. The cause is, we already know, right? The harassment's happening daily basis. The sexual abusive issue, even though we are abusing another real person of our kind. The fucking assholes who does that should be punished. Seriously, with real consequences. And because of this, the definition statements on this can be vague. Generally, video game design works with different groups. Sometimes the deadline time to submit a product push to have certain conditions described in ways that support their own beliefs or goals. Over time, this makes the labels feel inconsistent, or like they're always changing based on trends or pressure. I am not hurting or criticizing anyone. I want everyone to understand the pain of each person in his entire life had to go through this process, and it's totally understandable. I think it's sad as shit that we, as a moderate human community, even though not everyone on a personal level, are driving talented people away from the industry. We are missing out on so much because people just straight up leave and can't add their years of experiences to newer games. I don't mean that the story is being written poor here, but this game in particularly seems to be heavily inspired by either Final Fantasy or the Devil May Cry series action combat style. Because if you look at these characters, they look almost identical to Final Fantasy games. Though, personally, I kind of like these characters. I actually find the story probably good. Not like phenomenal or anything, but I don't imagine the latter half of the game story is going to change my mind on it. unless the changes butchered, or maybe in some cases, blow you away with amazing ending or social. Now, the real reason I'm talking about these particular games is being the linear story and the same action combat mechanics with flashy particle effects. Or, I don't know what I'm talking about.
For example, games like Ninja Gaiden Bundles, the DMC, Ones, and the Bayonetta games. I'm not talking about the DMC-5 because I will get a lot of hate for that. Leaving that one banger out from the DMC series, continue on, despite the other ones not having the same level of scrutiny for its action combat. With decent story structure. It seemed like reviews for these games might have pointed out that the stories were weak, but it seemed inconsequential to its overall review score. Not many people talk about the story in a character action game like these. Another biggest takeaway this game reinforced for me is that, at the end of the day, so much of a game's impact comes down to execution. Titles like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and Ninja Gaiden aren't delivering Larian-level storytelling, but they execute what they do have with enough confidence and competency that you either accept it or end up genuinely loving it. What makes this even more noticeable is the game's identity. Lost Soul Aside positions itself as a character action game and an ARPG, and RPGs, even implicitly, come with higher expectations for world building and narrative depth. When you step into ARPG territory, the bar for storytelling isn't just higher, it's the main heart of the genre's DNA. Not gonna lie, Gwendolyn does look attractive. Just like Stellar Blade and Monster Hunter Wilds had. Now, coming back to track, taking King Arthur Legacy and adopting a unique storytelling is going to be worst of my concerns. What makes me more skeptical about this game is the spectral knight in the gameplay comes from the Knights of the Round Table. The devs calling this dual fighting system, meaning you can summon and fight together with the summoned spectral knights. You can summon 2 knights same time, but from the first trailer we saw 3 of the spectral knights gameplay. Because of that, I'm seeing kind of the same issue as Lost Soul Aside had, where the fundamentals are a bit too simplistic. Although this was fun enough, but I will say upon replayability aspects, the combat does start to wear, because there are just not enough strings you can do, makes encounters start to feel a bit rote. This we already saw in Scarlet Nexus anime-inspired hack-and-slash JRPG. I watched the anime Season 1 on Crunchyroll. Man, this sucks. It's not the worst anime that I ever watched, but certainly it not make it into my top 100 anime ranking list. Let me say this. People who grow watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood will know what a peak anime means. Okay, moving on from that. Let's continue where we left off. I'm happy. There are still fans of this genre exist somewhere, but personally, I don't like these games at all. Because these games flashy and eyesore to watch or play them, with the particle effects blinding your eyes every time you use the ultimate skill. On contrast to this, Expedition 33, Stellar Blade, Nier Automata, Sekiro, Nioh, has minimal visual tarring on this particular problem. Earlier trailer gives me vibes of Devil May Cry 5 and Bayonetta combat aesthetics. All in all, I like what I saw back then. I think the combat needs a bit more punch to it, and the dialogue should be spruced up. But this is an pre-alpha build, so it can forgivable. Character-wise, I like Gwendolyn enough so far. She's giving Miriam from Bloodstained, with respectively. Now, story aside, what I'm interested in is the 12 Round Table Heroic Knights, and how they play the role in this story so far, which consist of 12 Round Table Knights to farm a team, and King Arthur himself chose them to be the protective knights heroes of Camelot.
From the first trailer showing us the spectral knights, that we saw 3 of them, with each has different elements. Of that, only 2 spectral knights can be summoned by Gwendolyn. Now, the bigger question is how the Round Table Knights are now commanded by Gwendolyn, and what is their purpose to serve her in this timeline, and how the story take place, all of this in proper narration. Does it have the depth of something like Baldur's Gate 3? Of course not, but very few games do. To me, these action games feels closer to Devil May Cry or Bayonetta in terms of pure action, and I think that's where it shines, with the particle effects, and I get why some people might bounce off it. These action games are definitely not a perfect game, and it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel in any way possible, right?
My initial impressions are generally positive. The action has solid spectacle, and the branching combo paths appear promising. They may offer enough variety to enable meaningful player expression, especially if there's depth beyond the Spectral Knight's abilities. If that holds true, that aspect alone would keep everyone interested. As a final note, before I'll wrap up the video, the main character's voice sounds similar to Shadowheart's voice actress. If that's indeed her, I'm a big fan of the casting choice. I know my videos are not worth much of your precious time. But if you like my videos here, I'll appreciate if you can make my channel reach 15,000 subscribers before the end of 2025. And press this stupid hype button, because YouTube does not like me for some reason. And finally, like the video for YouTube algorithm to boost my channel impressions to more people.